So far, we have learned a lot about Python. We learned how the basic syntax work in Python and also learned how different data structures work in Python. And we also learned how to use pandas to import and analyze CSV and Excel files. And moreover, we also learned how to create data visualizations using Matplotlib as well as Seaborn. Now, to tackle the real life challenges, all we need to do is to combine all the skill sets we learned so far and to basically come up and develop a Python program holistically. And in the advanced section like this, we're going to handle a number of situations by using the previous skill set we learned so far. And for this session, I created 3 Excel files: budget template, financials, and transactions. Let's take a look at each one of them. For the transactions, in January, I have 5 transactions. I have vendors listed in the second column and categories of those expenses as well as amount. For financials, I have amounts and revenue, cost of goods sold, as well as net income. For the budget template, I have an account listed here, and horizontally I have 12 months listed in the spreadsheet, but I don't have numbers populated yet. With this, let's go to our VS Code and create Python programs to do some automation. First exercise, we're going to create a Python file to take a look at what the transaction looks like overall in a pie chart. With this, let's create the Python file. I will call it financial analysis 1 Python. And let's paste our code over from the course material. So the first step of the code is to import all the necessary libraries. We use pandas to import the Excel file, and we use Matplotlib to do the plotting of the chart. And then second step, we will load Excel with pandas from using the read Excel method we learned previously. And we can designate which Excel file we want to import and the sheet name of the data. And then we manipulate the data frame a little bit. So we use group by method within the data frame method to group by categories and show the categories amount for the period expenses included in the transactions Excel. Then at the end, we will do a simple plot of the pie chart. To do a pie chart plotting, its summary, we can directly use the data frame built-in plot method and then create a pie. And essentially, this is the data format I want it to be and the figure size I want it to be. And then I will use the plot method to add the title. I don't really need a Y label because it's a pie chart. Then I just at the end, I want the plot to show. With this, let's run our code and see what it looks like. See, with this simple 12 lines of code, we basically imported that transactions Excel and visualized the expenses by categories in this chart here. And I can see majority of the expenses are travel. And I hope you like this. Now let's create another Python program to do another automation. The second exercise we're going to do is to populate the budget template for January expenses based on the transactions Excel. With this, let's create a Python file. Let's call it financial analysis 2. And let's copy over the code we have in our course material. The first step of a code is to import necessary library and functions. We're going to use the load workbook method from OpenPyXL to load a workbook into our worksheet. And also we're going to use pandas to create our data frame. The first step is to create the data frame using read Excel method within pandas to basically read in the transactions Excel file. After we read in the data, we need to basically identify January expenses by filter the dataset, the date column, and identify if it's the date, if it's in the first month, then we basically filter this dataset. Once it's filtered, we also want to group by categories to calculate the sum of those amounts by category. So hence we have the group by method and with the sum at the end. With this, we basically calculate the January's amount by category. Now our next step is to write this data into the worksheet. So first, we use load workbook method from OpenPyXL to load this Excel workbook. And then we select the worksheet within this workbook. Basically, since we only have one tab, so essentially the active tab is the worksheet we're going to select. So because we're going to write 3 categories into that template, which is travel, office, and software, and those are in cell B2, B3, and B4, all we need to do is to basically loop through this dictionary data structure and basically saying, well, I need to get the values based on the category, right? So I can say, well, based on the category, for the travel category, the value would be a travels value. And for the office category, the value would be office value. Same thing for software. Because we're pulling in the cells, we're looping in the cells as well. The cell is essentially the B2, B3, B4, which we want to populate in those positions. I can simply use worksheet position cell equals the value. After I do that, essentially what I did is in cell B2, B3, B4, I'm populating the travels value, office value, and software's expenses value. And at the end, after I populate all those values, I just need to save the workbook. Here, I save a workbook to another separate new workbook called budget field. With this, let's run our program to see whether it successfully populated a new Excel workbook with the value field for January by category. If you look at this, we have our budget field, Excel already created. And let's take a look. See, office, travel, office, and software expenses are all populated at B2, B3, and B4 based on the group by category values we did from the transactions Excel file. I hope you like this. And this is a pretty simple but very powerful exercise how to manipulate Excel files after reading in data using data frame. For our third exercise, I'm going to summarize the information I got from the financials and create a KPIs Excel file to show the KPIs based off those financials. And maybe we will just create a plot and also show the plot as well so we can have some sort of visualization. So let's create another file called financial analysis 3. And again, let's paste over our code. The first step is also import necessary packages. We use pandas and plot. For data frame, we're gonna use the read Excel method to read in the financials Excel. Then we do some quick calculations over the data it has. Basically, we calculate the gross profit and calculate the net margin. After we calculate those, we're going to create another Excel file called financials KPIs Excel. After that, we're going to do some plot. We're going to use Matplotlib to create a net margin by month and also to create a chart at the end to show how the net margin by month looks like. With this, let's run this code. And here we encounter the error net income. And let's try to debug this error. If we look at the traceback, here the traceback is in line 6. It says net income is not found. So let's take a look at our original financials Excel file. So I do have net income column or field in here. So let's go back. But if you look at my net income earlier, instead of underscore, I have a space. This is why this net income cannot be found. After I delete that underscore, I should be able to run the program now. So let's run it. With this, you see we created two files. One is financial KPIs, Excel file. So let's take a look. It calculated the gross margin and it calculated net margin. It also created this chart because I used plot save figure method to create this net margin by month chart. And it shows me a line chart basically by month and how the net margin looks like by month. And this is a simple program we just created by analyzing the financials Excel file. So I hope you like this. In the next few sessions, we will run a number of those scenarios, and please make sure you practice this code in your VS Code. And after you get more and more familiar with all those, I think you should be able to create Python files on your own to manipulate and automate some of your work in your day-to-day life.